From drug lord to prisoner, the rise and fall of El Chapo in the face of government opposition. He was a drug lord, feared and revered by many, but his empire was brought down by the relentless opposition of the government. Discover the shocking story of El Chapo and the government's efforts to bring him to justice. Let's delve into the dangerous world of the drug trade and the high stakes involved in taking down one of its most powerful players. Joaquín Archivaldo Guzmán Loera, commonly known as El Chapo, was a notorious Mexican drug lord and the former leader of the Sinaloa Cartel, one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. He was born on April 4, 1957, in Sinaloa, Mexico, and began his career in the drug trade in the 1980s. El Chapo gained notoriety for his role in smuggling massive quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, and other drugs into the United States, as well as for his ability to evade capture and escape from prison multiple times. He was eventually arrested and extradited to the United States, where he was convicted on charges of drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. In 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So what were the most significant charges against El Chapo? And how did the government build its case against him? El Chapo faced a litany of charges in both the United States and Mexico. But the most significant charges against him in the United States were drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Over the years, he smuggled massive amounts of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and other drugs across the US-Mexico border and distributed them throughout the United States, making him one of the most notorious drug traffickers in history. The following is an overview of the most significant charges against El Chapo and how the government's built its case around him. Money laundering. El Chapo was also charged with money laundering, which involved the process of concealing the profits of drug trafficking by investing them in legitimate businesses. According to prosecutors, he laundered more than $14 billion in drug profits throughout various means, including the purchase of real estate, businesses, and luxury goods. The government built its case against him by tracing the flow of funds through a network of bank accounts, shell companies, and intermediaries. Conspiracy to commit murder. El Chapo was also accused of ordering or being involved in numerous acts of violence and murder, including the killing of rival drug traffickers, law enforcement officials, and others who posed a threat to his organization. According to prosecutors, he was directly involved in at least 30 murders and ordered many more. The government built its case against him through the testimony of former members of his organization who had participated in or witnessed acts of violence, as well as through intercepted communications and other evidence. The government's case against El Chapo was bolstered by the cooperation of several key witnesses who had been members of his organization, including his former right-hand man, Alex Cifuentes, and a former hitman, Edgar Galvan. These witnesses provided detailed testimony about El Chapo's involvement in drug trafficking, money laundering, and violence, which was corroborated by wiretap recordings, surveillance footage, and other evidence. The government also presented a vast amount of physical evidence, including drugs, weapons, and cash seized from El Chapo's hideouts, which further supported their case. El Chapo managed to escape from prison twice in Mexico, in 2001 and 2015, using elaborate plans and extensive support networks. Both escapes were highly embarrassing for the Mexican government and highlighted the country's struggle to contain drug trafficking and organized crime. In response, the government implemented new security measures to prevent his escape during his third incarceration. El Chapo's first escape from prison occurred in 2001, when he was being held in a maximum security facility in Jalisco, Mexico. According to reports, he escaped by hiding in a laundry cart that was being wheeled out of prison by a maintenance worker, who was part of his support network. The worker then drove him to a nearby safe house, where he was able to evade capture for the next 13 years. El Chapo's second escape occurred in 2015, when he was being held in the Altiplano maximum security prison outside of Mexico City. This time, he used an elaborate tunnel that had been dug underneath the prison to escape. The tunnel was over a mile long and included lighting, ventilation, and a motorcycle that he used to speed his way to freedom. The tunnel had taken months to dig and involved a team of engineers and construction workers who were paid off by El Chapo's organization. This escape was a major embarrassment for the Mexican government and led to a massive manhunt that ultimately led to his capture. After his second escape, El Chapo was recaptured and extradited to the United States, where he faced a series of charges related to drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. During his third incarceration, the U.S. government took extensive measures to prevent his escape, including placing him in a high-security facility in Manhattan and limiting his access to visitors, mail, and phone calls. They also implemented strict surveillance measures and increased the number of guards assigned to his watch.